Hi Leo, here is a general look at your solar chart for February 2014, and every year at this time the Sun comes into the sign opposite you as Aquarius, and so up until the 19th it's probably better not to be going it alone. You'll feel more the contribution of others in one-to-one relationships, whether that's in a personal or professional sense, and you can be getting the best out of partnerships or associations and other close associations at this time. Just you'll be having this feeling of mutual interaction. There's a little bit of an unusual setup with the planets at the moment, because a lot of them are in the same signs they were in at the end of last year. Only the Sun, Moon and Mercury have moved, but even Mercury is yo-yoing back and forth between Pisces and Aquarius at the moment, and so for most of February Mercury is going to be retrograding. That's between the 6th and the 28th, and you may or may not know that when Mercury retrogrades it tends to slow things down. It tends to mean that there's delays or hold-ups, and really there's no point in fighting against that. It's simply a question of maybe slowing down yourself, not expecting communications to go that smoothly, whether they're physical or mental ones, and to contemplate a bit more, ponder a bit more, think more deeply about things, maybe go over old stuff. And then when the retrograde is finished, one has a more informed, well-versed, thought-through idea, which may actually mean that the retrograde has served a real useful purpose. So until the 13th, Mercury is in quite a sensitive area. It's actually not a very intellectual area at all. So what I was just saying about pondering and maybe being more intuitive in your thinking would be a good idea, and even getting intuitive guidance or giving intuitive guidance would be a good idea. Your thinking could also be focusing on the financial angle. Conversations could be around that: a space, a venue, possessions, property, and a piggy bank. But that's what you share with another. It's not you with all the control there. So that's what you're sharing with another. And there could be more discussion related to an agreement or a contract as well. And then from the 13th, communications, personal or professional, go very much into the area where the Sun was in from the beginning of the month, and they share the same area, Mercury and the Sun, for about 6 days from the 13th to the 19th. So that means that you're bouncing ideas off somebody else is exchanging information or ideas with you. You may be intrigued, you may be impressed, or you may not be by their slant on things, but at least it helps you to clarify your own slant on things. And you could be in a relationship with someone whose guidance or information or knowledge or expertise is valuable to you, and turn that around, vice versa. What you know, what your experience is valuable to them. But you could also end up as being more of a go-between, kind of an agent, an information giver, guide at this time. Mercury does go across the degree of Saturn between the 18th and 22nd. That means that you could have more on your mind there, that you could be thinking harder about things, dealing with more stuff in communications or with other people. You know, it's always going to be slower and heavier when Mercury's, or rather when Saturn is around on any of the planets, but this is relatively fleeting, really. However, I mention it because it is in the retrograde period, and the retrograde period, it already means that there can be delays or crossed wires. So just take a step back, be a bit more introspective as you resolve any inner questioning or even outer questioning. And then from the 19th, the Sun moves into Pisces, a gear shifting area for you, Leo. I call it that because usually we're making some sort of transition from one stage or chapter or stretch of road to the next, and being, again, less intellectual and more intuitive as we're doing it, being more conscious. This is a sensitive area, this is a deep area, so being more conscious of the emotional angle, whether that's for yourself or whether that's you having to be sensitive to that for others. Musing over deeper questions, being more intuitive in your thinking, not going at something with the logic so much as obliquely with the intuition. Do you know we fire off a lot more areas of our brains when we're thinking intuitively than if we are thinking logically? And you could run up against some sort of resistance from another, some sort of clash of values with the Sun here, and also where Mercury is going to be in the first segment. So when that happens, you will have to maybe, you know, be a bit shrewd, be a bit sensitive, be a bit, not all the cards on the table, and try to work around it, with it, through it, find the win-win solution somehow or other. But it will be a bottom line point, really, where, you know, you feel like, I've got to stick up for myself here, you know, I've made this concession and that concession, or maybe you haven't. Well, perhaps you should, because actually this is an area where you've got to let something go in order to achieve something more. It's a great moment on a purely material, physical level to have a detox, a declutter, and just drop some ballast. So a diet as well. Now, Venus is continues this long transit of Capricorn until early March. So this is a very practical position of Venus for you, Leo, showing teamwork in all matters of work, the job, daily duties, but also daily duties related to health as well. So prevention or cure, diet, exercise, all of that will tend to be favorably highlighted. You'll probably get more involved with the people that are helping you there, or the people that you're helping. If you don't know them already, you'll get closer to the ones you know already. So you can really dovetail with people. As to whether they're actually being of practical use to you is another thing, although the tendency would be that they would be, if you see what I mean. Because Venus is a harmonizer, Venus is a balancer. So if things have been out of sync, we haven't been getting the right sort of advice with health, or you haven't been getting the right kind of vibe off somebody to do with the employment market or work, you know, colleagues, or it will, or equipment, or the venue or the space, or the type of work you're doing, Venus will tend to balance it out and harmonize it. And she will get a really good crack at it over this very, very long transit that she's in here. Socializing or a romantic liaison could spring up with someone in this kind of very practical environment. Bearing in mind Pluto, Pluto is also in that area there, and Pluto can go to extremes. Pluto says, I want all the control. And then, of course, because it's Pluto, somebody else in the mix will also be, maybe you feel, as quite controlling and trying to force you to do things that you hadn't quite seen yourself doing it that way, or wanting to do it that way. And that might be to do with work, that might be to do with health. So moderation in all things is what I would say, you know. Don't cut something out completely just because it doesn't sit well with your visualization of it. However, don't go overboard on it either and think that this is the be-all and end-all, either with work or health-related matters. And that might be health of somebody else as well. Another thing is the work you do, or the way you do your work, or the people you're doing your work with, can have tremendous influence on the wider world. So maybe the work you're doing, if it's going out, it might be influencing people more strongly than you realize. So that's another thing about Pluto. Pluto is about power. Now, until July, Mars is in a transit of your solar communications sector, accelerating your mental processes and firing up the way you express yourself. So you becoming more articulate, maybe, you developing yourself through speaking, writing, educational pursuits, and also making new connections, using your communication skills, improving on them, but using them in different kinds of ways, signing up for a course, and yeah, all of that. And Mars likes to be dynamic and make decisions and initiate things, so yeah, now would be the time to do it. Very strongly in the stream of information exchange with Mars here. Comings and goings could increase, and it's a good time for you to float out a new concept or a new body of work, if that is, fits with where you're at in your life. However, as always with Mars, there can be tensions, there could be crossed swords with others, and others could see you as too aggressive, not soft enough, not diplomatic enough. So be careful about that. Also, equally, with the Mars energy swirling around, you could get that off others. You're more defensive because you're more sensitive to what others are saying to you. There can be more correspondence or paperwork flying around as well. There could be issues around vehicles, communications equipment too. But the Mars energy will give you the stamina to see it through. You should start to feel more confident, however, about what you're thinking and what you want to say and what you want to get off your chest, etc., etc., and making certain decisions that you couldn't really define, you didn't have enough information about before. And you can be very proactive and successful through media, promotions, buying, selling, or simply speaking up and expressing yourself, and being more creative in your self-expression. Now, until next July, because of the position of Jupiter, letting go and forgiving would be a good thing to do, to have been doing. Jupiter is there for another about 8 months. No, it won't be 8 months, will it? It'll be about 5 months and 5-6 months. So in general, you've still got those 5.5 months to kind of be tying up the loose ends, sorting out the past, sorting out, making the skeletons in the closet more comfy, and also being more, doing more in the background, learning more in the background. Again, developing the creative skills, or writing that novel, or whatever it is that you've got on the work table in the background, or just generally being there in a supportive way for others in the background as well. This is a good time for developing things in that kind of cocoon sort of area, which are imaginative, which are spiritual, which are to do with healing, nurturing things for yourself, but also for others, if that's the way your life is, and anything which will teach you something new. This is also the area where you can be your own worst enemy, because you become self-indulgent, you start shooting yourself in the foot because you go back to a bad old habit because you thought that you'd knocked it on the head and it was no longer a threat, or in fact you can't change a bad habit, whether that is something which is unhealthy or whether that's just a way that you respond to things when somebody pushes that button. Now, you Leos born between the 1st and the 5th of August, or with 9 to 13 degrees rising, are going to feel that energy the most. I should mention from mid-January throughout February, Jupiter is opposite to Pluto. So there can be a battle of wills there for some reason, or a tug of war for some reason. You may be fixating on, your way or the highway, and then finding that you're running up against this resistance, or maybe it's somebody else that does that to you, and you are just the innocent, bystander in a way. But that may then cause you to shift your position, because you've got to think more deeply, you've got to scrutinize your own motives and your own actions, or your own decisions, or just your own way of perceiving it. So you've got to let go of something. This is called compromise, really. But yeah, you'll have to let go of something there in order to preserve and let something there grow, you see. Whatever that's about for you. Also from late January to the end of the first week of February, relationship could open new horizons for you. Now, Saturn is in a long cycle of challenging you to work harder at family relationships, anything to do with a home base, HQ, and you may feel limited because of certain members of the family, what's going on for them, or physically your point on the map where you're located, the domestic setup, what's going on with family kind of routines, domestic routines. Anything like that might be a frustration to you or limitation to you. So you have to reach for how to improve it. This is the way sneaky Saturn works. She gets us to try harder to overcome obstacles. And so anything you've just been tolerating regarding the domestic setup, place on the map, family dynamic, family relationships, will now need your attention, and that will have to be consistent and gradual as you slowly and consistently and gradually get things to change in the way that you want them to be. Even loose ends from the past may, sort of, or rather those skeletons in the closet may sort of the door may fly open and they may, you know, give you a fright as well. So you just feel a lack regarding this area here. Maybe you don't like where you live, you know, maybe there's things about that. So that's you then, okay, realizing, okay, this sucks. I want something better than this, and then working very, very gradually towards it. And Saturn's going to be there until nearly the end of 2014. Now, you Leos born between the 13th and the 17th, or with 21 to 24 degrees rising, going to feel that energy the most. And that's it for February. If you want to know what the slower moving outer planets are doing, other slower moving outer planets are doing, that's all written up on my website. There's a long screed on there for the whole of 2014. So you get the sort of idea from reading that. And also listen to the forecast for your moon sign or your rising sign if you know what they are, because that'll give you another angle on what I've said here. Just listen to the bits that make sense to you, and don't worry if you don't understand the rest of it. And just chuck that away, and I'll see you the next time.